Hey everybody, Deathblade here. A little bit of a different kind of recording this time. I'm recording at night outside of my normal time that I record, and I'm not going to edit this. I'm just going to kind of ramble and then post it. This is something I've been wanting to talk about for a while. If you checked the title of the video, you know what I'm talking about, but I'm going to do a little short introduction here. One of the reasons why I'm doing this now is because I've been thinking about it more than ever, the idea of Wuxia in tabletop role-playing games. I've been working for almost 2 years now on a Wuxia role-playing game that will be released later this year. It's called Righteous Blood, Ruthless Blades. Not much information has been released about it yet. It's still in editing, and as of the recording of this video in March 2020, art is still in basically the sketch process, sketching and stuff. So it's going to be several months before the game is released. But I've been thinking about it a lot, and now shifting it over to Dungeons and Dragons, I'm a big Dungeons and Dragons fan. I've DM'd Dungeons & Dragons. I've been a player. I'm currently in a campaign right now with some local guys. We play in person. We're doing Storm King's Thunder. And so, yeah, I don't really talk about that much on this channel, but this is kind of a direct crossover because I don't know whether you know, but there is a section in the Dungeons & Dragons Game Master Guide that talks about Wuxia. And so I want to give my reaction to it. It's not really a reaction because I've obviously looked at this section before. I was surprised when I saw it the first time. Incidentally, another aside, I'm kind of in the process of moving. I've talked about that in other videos for those of you who follow the channel. But basically, I have pretty much most of my belongings packed up. I'm currently staying at my parents' house for a little bit while we're transitioning to a different place. I'm recording this in the midst of the whole coronavirus thing in China. My family was originally supposed to go back to China to visit, and literally right at this time. And so what we were planning to do was stay with my parents for a little bit, then go to China for like about a month or so, then come back for a little bit, and then move into the new place. But then the coronavirus struck right in the middle of it, and so now we're kind of sort of stuck at my parents while the new place we're intending to move into is being fixed up. And so, yeah. So anyway, sorry. So the point is just most of my belongings are like packed up in boxes, and that includes my copy of the Dungeons & Dragons Game Master Guide. So thankfully I actually also happen to have it on D&D Beyond, which I like and use. This video is not sponsored by D&D Beyond, but I do like it. The current campaign that I am a part of, we use it. There are some things, there's some deficiencies to it that I would say, especially on the Dungeon Master side. It's not really that particularly useful for the Dungeon Master as opposed to some of the other online places out there where you can have like a wiki or keep track of your session logs and whatnot. But it's so good. I really like D&D Beyond, especially for character creation. And when you have all of the source books and everything added to it, it makes that character creation so much easier. Sorry, I was also sick over the past couple weeks. Not coronavirus, but still, it's still kind of lingering in my throat. So what I want to talk about is the Dungeon Master Guide's take on Wuxia. So if you go to, this is the Dungeon Master table of contents, and if you go to play style, and then you can see down here, flavors of fantasy. Then, we have heroic fantasy, sword and sorcery, epic fantasy, mythic fantasy, dark fantasy, intrigue, mystery, swashbuckling, war. And then right here is Wuxia. I'm going to scroll back up before I start talking about it. I do want to point out something. Dungeon Master Guide came out, I'm pretty sure it was 20... I'm going to check really quickly, just so I'm not, let's go to Amazon, I guess. We'll check the 5e Dungeon Master's Guide, and, okay, yeah, so, well, I'll scroll down so you can see it. So here we go. It came out in December 9, 2014, so that was 6 years ago, and that was basically, it was actually in 2014 that the online web novel translation scene exploded. So, Wuxia was known and popular before them. Around the time Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon came out, that was when the translation scene started for Wuxia novels. By the time 2014 came around, that scene had kind of started to die out. I was part of it. By 2014, I want to say I had probably translated 3 Wuxia novels by that point, maybe 4, I forget. But it was in 2014 that the web novel translation scene exploded, and the more high fantasy Xianxia and Xuanhua novels became super, super popular. And that led to a mini resurgence in Wuxia, I would say, and at least a greater awareness of these different genres and what they are like and what the different terms are, both within the novel translation scene and in the broader scene in general. So my main point in all of this is that by the time the Dungeon Master Guide came out, it was kind of at the tail end of when the Wuxia translation scene was dying and the new web novel translation scene was starting. And so at that point, many years ago, 6 years ago or more, I think, because take into consideration the Dungeon Master Guide, they would have been writing it, long before they actually published it. So anyway, the point is that the general awareness and understanding of what Wuxia was at that point definitely was very low. That said, let's just get into it. So here we go. Here's what the Dungeon Master Guide, Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition says about Wuxia. It says, when a sensei disappears... Okay, stop. Full stop. When a sensei disappears... Okay. I think you can already tell where this video is going. And within 3 words, the entire Wuxia section of the Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition... Flavors of Fantasy for Wuxia just crashes and burns in the first 3 words, because I'm sorry, but sensei, that is a Japanese term. Samurai, karate, judo, maybe jujitsu. I'm like not a martial arts expert per se, or at all. But sensei is Japanese martial arts. Wuxia is very specifically Chinese martial arts genre. It's just like so wrong that when I first read this, I was just like, Anyway, it says, when a sensei disappears mysteriously, her young students must take her place and hunt down the Oni terrorizing their village. Okay, Oni, there you go, is another Japanese monster. Now, so obviously what they were aiming for, you can see it in the next paragraph. Okay, let's just keep reading. Accomplished heroes, masters of their respective martial arts, return home and free their village from an evil hobgoblin warlord. The Rakshasa master of a nearby monastery performs rituals to raise troubled ghosts from their rest. Then it says, a campaign that draws on elements of Asian martial arts movies is a perfect match for D&D. That's great. The main problem here is that they are basically lumping all Asian martial arts movies into Wuxia. Wuxia is not all Asian martial arts movies by any stretch of the imagination. It's a very specific genre of Chinese martial arts fiction and movies and what have you. It's even separate from what I would call the kung fu genre. So you have the, kung fu movies and wuxia movies are different, and they're both Chinese movies. So just to call wuxia Asian martial arts movies is just so wrong. Continuing on, it says, players can define the appearance of their characters and gear however they like for the campaign, and spells need only minor flavor changes so that they better reflect such a setting. For example, when the characters use spells or abilities that teleport them short distances, they actually make high-flying acrobatic leaps. That's dumb. Ability checks to climb don't involve careful searching for holds, but let characters bounce up walls or from tree to tree. Warriors stun their opponents by striking pressure points. Flavorful descriptions of actions in the games don't change the nuts and bolts of the rules, but they make all the difference in the feel of the campaign. So basically what they're saying is play Dungeons & Dragons as normal and change the names. Personally, I feel that that's just silly. Now, if you are operating in an environment where there are no wuxia role-playing games whatsoever, no advice or anything, and the only system you have is Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, and you have to use that, okay, fine, that makes sense. But the thing is that, there are a lot of systems out there for wuxia. If you take a little bit of time to homebrew some content, then you could very easily have a great 5th edition style session that's wuxia without basically just taking Dungeons & Dragons stuff and then changing the names a little bit. I'm actually curious, has anybody out there actually done that? Has anyone out there used a non-homebrew 5th edition and just kind of change the names to make a wuxia setting? I know there are people out there who use 5th edition for wuxia, xianxia, Huan stuff. There's a Discord server out there for a group, last I checked they're still active, who are doing, I'm pretty sure, a homebrew 5th edition xianxia style campaign. So I'm just curious, anybody out there that actually watches this video to this point, what are your thoughts about it? Have you actually done this? Let's keep reading because I want to get through this whole section. It's not very much longer. It says, similarly, a class doesn't need new rules to reflect a cultural influence. A new name can do the trick. A traditional Chinese wuxia hero might be a paladin who has a sword called the Oath of Vengeance. Well, a Japanese samurai might be a paladin. Okay, so why are they both paladins? Why couldn't a Chinese wuxia hero be the fighter class? It would make way more sense. But anyway, whatever. A Japanese samurai might be a paladin with a particular oath of devotion, bushido, that includes fealty to a lord, daimyo, among its tenets. Okay, again, I already went on about it, but Japanese martial arts and samurai stuff is not wuxia. It's just not. Continuing on, a ninja is a monk who pursues the way of shadow. That's like obvious. I mean, the way of shadow for monks is literally like they might as well just call it the way of the ninja or something because it just is ninja. But whatever. Whether called a wujen, a sukai, or a swami, a wizard, sorcerer, or warlock character works just fine in a game inspired by medieval Asian cultures. I mean, technically it's true, but as somebody who's currently playing a warlock, what I can tell you is that everything from the patrons to the actual spells, it's its own thing. To try to take that and turn it into the Asian versions of magic stuff, just to me, personally, doesn't make sense. Okay, here's some more cringe. Wuxia weapon names. Having players refer to a tetsubo or a katana rather than a great club or a longsword can enhance the flavor of a wuxia campaign. The wuxia weapon names table lists alternative names for common weapons from the player's handbook and identifies their real-world cultural origins. An alternative name changes none of the weapons' properties as they are described in the player's handbook. Okay, so again, we're doing the name change thing. I'm just going through some of these. It's not too bad. It looks like whoever compiled this list had at least some understanding of Chinese and or Japanese, either that or, they were careful in their Wikipedia research. Battle axe, fu. Fu means axe, basically club, bien. I'm not going to go through all of these because I read through all of them. Most of them are relatively okay. Calling a glaive a guandao is like, what? Because a guandao is a very specific weapon. I'm sure that all of you who are familiar with Chinese martial arts. So this is a guandao. So I mean, okay, fine. You could call that a glaive. Great sword, changdao. Changdao just means a long saber. Halberd, zi, sure. Chinese, so long sword, jian. I mean, the thing is that a Chinese... Okay, fine. I'm not going to pull a picture. Chinese jian... I have a video about it. I'll link to the video. Technically, most of these could work. I think, for the most part, this is one that I wasn't really sure about because... So, short sword, and they're calling it shuangdao. So, if you search for shuangdao, pretty sure it's going to be butterfly knives. Oh, no, it's these. Oh, it's these ones. Okay, so, similar kind of thing. They're calling this the short sword. I mean, I guess that works. Anyway, so yeah, so I don't want to diss 5th edition because, like I said, I play it, I like it, it's really cool. I don't want to say I'm obsessed with it, but I kind of obsessed with it. I'm a Critical Role fan, all that stuff. I just feel that if you're gonna do wuxia, it would be better served to take some time to homebrew some content that makes sense with the general system, as opposed to just literally trying to put a costume onto a Western warlock and calling it like a Chinese magician or something. And yeah, so those are my thoughts on it. I think it's really cringy to have this wuxia section in the Dungemaster's guide. It's just so bad and so wrong. It could be worse, okay? It could definitely be worse. And again, this was written back in the time when there was much less understanding of the different genres. 6 years have gone by, the whole world has changed. There's a lot more emphasis on these kind of cultural things now. And again, don't get me wrong, I'm not getting triggered by the cultural appropriation or some whatever stuff like that. I prefer accuracy over inaccuracy. And I also get that it shouldn't be expected for people who are not familiar with something to be experts on it. I get that. But if you're going to have an official publication and have official suggestions for something as big as Dungeons and Dragons, I'm really shocked that they bungled it this bad. Okay, so that's it for this video. I'm looking over at the time. Can I see the timestamp? I'm not sure how long I've rambled here. It's kind of a rambling video. And again, shout out Righteous Blood, Ruthless Blades. Again, it's many months in the coming, but it is, I would say, very culturally and historically accurate wuxia role-playing game system. It's supposed to be rules light, so it should be relatively easy to pick up for anybody who has played a role-playing game in the past to any extent. For people who are brand new to role-playing games, it's not going to be easy to necessarily figure out how to play it from the source book because it's a small rules light sourcebook, not intended to introduce role-playing games in general. So if you're a person who is interested in this kind of thing but don't know how role-playing games work, I suggest you do a little bit of YouTube research. There are tons of videos out there that talk about what role-playing games are, how they work, and that sort of thing. Can't really talk too much about Righteous Blood Ruthless Blades right now because we're still too far away from the release date. But as it gets closer, I will do more videos. And I'm curious what you guys think about this kind of format of video. Again, I'm not going to edit it. It's just kind of me rambling and reading some stuff online. But if you're interested in this kind of stuff, please let me know if you see articles or interesting things that you think it would be interesting to see me kind of go over in this format. Let me know. If you hate it, that's fine too. Just let me know. Making videos like this is actually kind of easy because it's after hours, so to speak, and I can just kind of ramble into the mic. Okay, that's it for this video. If you like this kind of content, please do like and subscribe. Please do share. And you can always support me on Patreon or PayPal or whatever. The links are all in the description below. I'll see you in the next video. God Shalom.